Hi guys, it's Anna. Today we're going to be doing an intermediate level fitness circle workout. So the only things you'll need today are your fitness ring and your mat, and then any supportive accessory stuff. So your head pads, kneeling pads, low back pad, maybe some water. And then other than that, we'll get started. So we're going to start lying on our backs here. And you can have the legs bent or long for this first move. There's kind of two grips with our fitness circle. So we can either do a long grip or we can do athletic grip where we're actually holding onto the handles. So choose the one that feels more comfortable for you. We're gonna start with a little protraction and retraction. So breathing into the back and the sides of the body. Just letting everything settle into the ground. So you're kind of registering, where's the body at today? Where's your neutral? How does your spine and pelvis feel? We're gonna keep the spine and pelvis steady as we start to go into these protractions and retractions. So I'm gonna push the ring away, letting my shoulder blades spread away from my spine. And then I'm gonna draw the ring back towards my chest. And you'll feel those shoulder blades gently retract towards your spine. And as we're pushing, and then gently letting gravity assist the arm bones dropping back into the sockets, I want you to notice if anything's changing in the rib cage or the pelvis. So our scapular movement is pretty small. And you want to see if you can stabilize with just a little awareness in the low core as we take these. Try one more, pressing up. And then gently settling back down. So now we're gonna challenge the ribs a little bit more. So I'm gonna sweep my ring overhead, just above the ground, so it won't quite touch. So now I have to definitely turn on my abs a little bit more. I'll exhale to draw that ring back above my chest. So now you're gonna notice a little bit more effort has to be made here as we reach the ring overhead to maintain that spinal position. Ribs and back really like to pop in this one. So you can imagine the floating ribs just gently sliding down the front of the body and a little low core drawing in. Think about those hip bones drawing towards one another. And how's the breath here? So inhaling to lengthen and exhaling to draw the arms back. We'll do one more like this. Since we're going to be holding this ring quite a bit, it's good to get our shoulders engaged here. Nice, so I'm in my neutral pelvis. I'm gonna flip the ring so I've got that padded part. It's gonna come under the bottom of my skull, and then I'm gonna turn my palms up so I've got that top pad at my hands here. So I'm checking in with my pelvis, right? Low core is active, pelvic floor, TA, hip bones drawing towards one another. I'm gonna nod my chin, so I'm looking down towards my knees. Then I'm gonna exhale, curl up into a little crunch. And I get to press a bit into this. I don't wanna press so much that I'm pulling at my head and neck, but I'm taking a little bit of the work out of my neck here. We're gonna keep the pelvis neutral for these first couple. So we're really making sure that the pelvis doesn't tuck and the back doesn't smash as we curl up. Love an exhale, it's pretty natural, right? We're compressing the torso. So as you curl up, nodding the chin first, which is a huge component. Sometimes when we feel like our neck and chin are overworking a lot, it's because we're lifting the head without placing the cervical spine in the best position. And we'll just take two more like this. So just warming up the abs here, exhaling. See if you can think about controlling the return back down. It's a great way to build strength. Last one like this. And then just gently taking that ring out from behind the head. We'll come back to that starting position with the arms overhead, right? Either your classic or athletic grip. I'm gonna come into my imprint here. So this is my flat back position where my obliques are drawing my ribs and hips together. Gently rotates myself into a little bit of a posterior pelvic tuck. And then I'm gonna keep a little squeeze on the ring. So I'm kind of pressing into that ring as I exhale to float one leg to tabletop. And then I'm gonna lower that leg back down. Exhale, try the opposite side. So what I'm doing here is I'm just testing, can I maintain my now imprint position, spine and pelvis, as my legs are floating up? A little bit of core work here. And I've got that ring to kind of close the chain, give me a little bit more feedback into my core. So the next time your right leg's up, take a breath in, exhale, float that second leg to meet it. So now we're gonna take your alternating toe taps here. So switching sides, keeping a little squeeze here on the ring, noticing this feedback loop of the more you squeeze, the more core you feel. And if you want to make this harder, there's kind of two options we can do here. We can start to tap the legs a little bit further away, right? So think about that component, the further from my center, the more challenging. Remember, it's your thigh moving versus your knee. So we really want to keep the thigh the instigator. The other option we can do is still squeezing into that ring. We can start to float the arms overhead. We're not going to rest them on the ground, but we're just making it a little more challenging now in our imprint, not just in our low core, but also in our rib cage. So upper abs have to work a little bit harder here. We'll take two more like this, so even yourself out here. And then pause in your tabletop position. We're gonna reach the arms back up. We're gonna come into a bicycle. So whether you wanna point your toes or flex your feet or keep the foot relaxed if you tend to grip through the shin, we're gonna extend one leg long and then bring that leg back in. And then exhale, extend to the opposite leg. So if we wanna make this a little bit harder, going kind of slow here, you can start to exchange the legs. I'm gonna try really hard not to let my supporting leg wander off to the side or pull in any closer. It's gonna stay stacked over my hip since we're doing a little intermediate level here. If I wanna make this harder still, I can also, again, come back to reaching that ring overhead. Exhaling as you switch here. See if you can kick your glutes on. Outer hip and inner thigh are also supporting your ab work. Now we're gonna come up for a little crisscross. So the next time that your right leg bends into tabletop, we're gonna nod the chin, exhale, and curl up. Now you're rotating without resting on the right shoulder blade. Exhale to twist left. As you curl from side to side, can you maintain that even weight through your pelvis? So you might notice a little bit of rocking and rolling in the hips. Maybe go a little slower. Keep squeezing that ring. You got 4 more. And 3. Last 2. Last 1. And then rolling all the way back down. You can set your feet into your shoulder bridge position. So feet are a little bit closer to the bum. And we'll bring that ring in between our thighs. Now your feet might be a little bit wider than typical, especially if your ring is a little bit stiffer. So adjust as necessary. You want to be as comfortable as possible. So I'm in my neutral pelvis. I'm use the same imprint feeling to peel and lift my hips to the sky. And then I'm going to roll it back down from the top. So using my upper abdominals to return my spine back down onto the mat. Now you can either do palms up. I'm a big fan of reaching the arms to the ceiling because it gives us some good feedback if we're overworking one side, twisting, side bending. It's pretty revealing when we don't get to use our arms to assist. Now your glutes will definitely turn on, bum and hamstring. We're watching not to come so high up that we start to pop the ribs and put a lot of pressure into the neck. And just easy, smooth breath. If you want to coordinate an exhale to lift and inhale at the top and an exhale to roll down, really you should be able to just have like a pleasant conversation while you're doing most of your mat work, right? Our intense core breathing gets a little bit more important. Not that it isn't important the whole time, but our coordination. So in this next one, we're gonna stay up on the top. You can either keep the arms to the ceiling or you can sweep the arms overhead to a hover. We're gonna take 10 pulses into the ring. Can you keep your hips steady? Notice, and maybe even take a little peek. Hands on hips is a really great strategy to give yourself a little check-in. Halfway here, still breathing. Let's go for 3, and 2, and 1. And then rest your arms all the way overhead. It's okay if the elbows bend. Get a nice little stretch through the upper chest as you roll all the way back down. So for my kind of more supported version, you can keep the ring at your thighs. Since we're doing intermediate level, I'm gonna bump this ring to my ankles. And I'm coming back into my imprint position. So setting the core and floating those legs to tabletop. Again, you can point the toes or flex the feet. Think about how that ankle position affects your hips. So you just want the best slide and glide you can get. I'm gonna reach the arms out to the side here. We're gonna come into a little twist. So I'm gonna let my top hip lift, keeping the opposite shoulder down onto the ground. Take a nice breath in, and then exhale, squeeze that ring to come back up. And then trying the other side. So for my knees to not shear, which means my pelvis is not shearing, I wanna make sure I'm allowing that top hip to lift. My inner thighs and outer hips are definitely assisting here. You can feel the core engaging as you exhale to initiate, drawing those legs back to center. And we'll take one more each way here. Keeping the neck nice and easy. On your last one, we'll pause in center. So I'm gonna take a little airplane prep. I'm gonna let my thighs come up, try to lift my bum off the mat, roll back down, exhale, double toe tap. Now maybe you don't touch the ground all the way, that's okay, just remember we're not unloading weight. So it's an exhale to curl up, control that lower back down, nice breath in, exhale to tap. And we'll take about 4 more like this. This is your rollover prep, your short spine prep. Creasing at the hip joint, really motivated to squeeze that ring so it doesn't land on your face. We've got 2 more. Lots of deep core. Last one here. We're gonna take this into a little bend and stretch. I like to flex my feet because I feel like I get quite a bit of glute and hamstring. Feel free to try it. We're gonna kick the legs out and then draw the legs back in. Now remember, you're still in an imprint position. So if you notice that going really low pulls you into an arch or pops the back or the rib cage, we're gonna bring the legs up a little bit higher. If you wanna make this harder, clasp your hands behind your head. Every time you draw the legs into tabletop, you're gonna take a little crunch. Lengthening the legs out and exhaling to crunch. You get 4 more of this variation. You can always leave the head down the whole time. It's still quite a bit of core work, especially if you're really lowering those legs. 2 more. Nodding that chin first before you lift, right? Supporting your head with your arms. Next time you're gonna stay out, you can keep the arms behind the head for a little more challenge. We're gonna lift and we're gonna lower. Exhaling as you lower. The most important component is keeping the spine in pelvic position. So if you notice that you start to lose it at a certain height, keep your range of motion a little bit smaller. You get 2 more here. Last one. We're gonna do a little double leg stretch with an exchange. So I'm gonna take that ring, I'm gonna curl up here. I'm gonna reach the arms overhead as I kick the legs out. Strong exhale. I'm gonna bring the ring back in between my ankles, reach my arms overhead. And switch. Exhaling to extend. Bonus points for squeezing those legs together in between. You get 3 more, keep an eye on that back. Last 2. Last one, you could always do this with the head down. Last one. You can take that ring, plant your right foot. We're gonna pop that left ball of the foot into the padded side of the ring. Now for a little more stretch, you can always lengthen that right leg out, but keep it really active. So try flexing and kicking that glute on. And then whatever is most comfortable, so under cling or over cling, we're gonna do a little bend and stretch. So some knee pumps here, getting a nice little stretch. Try to keep it kind of active, right? We're still working out, so we wanna keep the momentum, keep those tissues in a ready state. And 2 more like this. And then we'll come back through the ring, pop that other foot in. Again, feel free to adjust your grip or your supporting leg. And we'll take some knee pumps on this side. So really the more you flex the foot and the more you kind of draw down on the ring, you're gonna notice a more intense stretch through that whole posterior line of the leg. And this is a really nice one for calves as well. Nice, we're gonna sweep the legs into the ring and then pop that ring to the outside of the thighs, coming back into your shoulder bridge position. Again, it might be a little wider than your usual stance. This time we're just gonna press the hips up. So I'm pressing the hips up in one go, and then as if you got karate chopped at the hip crease, set the bum back down. So quite a bit of core control as you exhale to lift and inhale to lower. Bum comes on right away. Love having thumbs on the ribs and pinkies on your hip crest. That can give you some good feedback to make sure you're not splaying open or arching each time. You can always do arms to the ceiling or arms overhead, right? So figure out where you are feeling like challenging yourself today. On the next one, we're gonna stay. So I'm gonna find the stability, stabilize through your left glute, pressing out through both sides. I'm gonna see if I can lift my right heel and then lower that heel down. Now I'm gonna stabilize a little more through the right glute. I'm still activating through my left side as I lift and lower. Try a couple more like this, alternating, still pressing into the ring without letting the ribs pop a little bit, the chest get a little too high. One more each side. If you want to add on to this, you can stabilize through the left leg. You're actually going to extend the right leg out and then bring the right leg back in. Now I'm going to stabilize through that right glute, extend the left leg out, and draw it back in. We'll take about 4 more in total with your full extension, or you're sticking with that first version of just trying to keep the hips level and the core steady as you lift that heel. We'll even ourselves out here, so last one of our leg extensions. And then you can roll it all the way down. We'll take our ring out here. Lengthen those legs long. You're gonna sweep the arms overhead. Squeezing the legs together if you can. I'm gonna reach the ring to the ceiling, and I'm gonna curl all the way up and over. Nice little stretch forward, and then draping the spine back down. So if you wanted that lower back pad for your rollover, if you need to make any padding adjustments. Now I'm squeezing the ring right in this moment. That's always that tricky little kind of over the hill piece. Try squeezing for one more curl up, and then I'm gonna have you try the opposite and see which one works better for you. So nodding the chin, following the ring with the eyes. So now we'll roll down on this next one. We're gonna try the opposite. So we'll actually try pulling the ring apart. So if you wanna switch to your athletic grip, if you haven't done so already, you're gonna pull, 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 pull through that moment. Coordinating with your exhale is gonna be really helpful. And if you're working on your roll up, you can always bend the legs if you prefer. And if you want to improve your roll up, go really slow in both directions. Especially that eccentric is a great way to strength build. So really taking your time on this roll down, flipping the pelvis. Both hips should be flipping equally. Last one here with this pulling motion. So I'm gonna pull the ring apart and then all the way forward. So we'll come into our half roll back. We'll bend the legs here. Now we're sitting up as tall as we can. So this is a tricky one. Feel free to adjust the length of the legs, or sometimes flexing the feet just gives us that little extra kind of upright position in the pelvis. So again, straighter athletic grip. We're gonna give it a little squeeze. We're gonna roll back just off our sits bones, just to maybe the top of your pants, kind of back of the hips. Then we're gonna exhale to curl forward. And rolling it back. So my pelvis is gonna scoop, right? This is your imprint, this is your shoulder bridge pelvic position. Then it's my rib cage that's gonna curl up. Now I'm squeezing the ring. I don't wanna lock my arms. So if you notice that you've got some hyperextension, see if you can keep just a little bit of a micro bend so that you're actively supporting the elbow joint. And then exhaling to curl up. Try the opposite. We're gonna pull the ring this time. So I'm rolling it back. And exhale, pull to curl up. Rolling pelvis back, nice breath in. And exhale, and my head's generally just staying towards that ring. It's nice moving sometimes with a prop because we get a sense of where our gaze is. We tend to think, sometimes we have a downward gaze. We can get a little bit into our heads. On this next one, we're gonna roll back and stay. So maybe not your deepest position, but one where you can maintain the C curve through the low abdominals. We're gonna sweep the ring up and then pull the ring down. Exhaling, sweep that ring up and pulling down. So definitely a more extreme version of what we did at the very, very beginning. Can I keep my spinal and pelvic position, allowing my shoulder blades to move without letting either my head or my ribs or my back offset this motion. So maybe you're only moving a little bit. That's a-okay. Try 2 more here. This is a great one for shoulder blade mobility. And then curl forward. Last one like this. We're going to roll right back down. Take a breath in, maybe bringing your legs together for this last one. We're going to exhale, twist to the right. Inhale through center. Exhale, twist to the left. So you're trying to keep your knees from shearing here. So kind of the opposite of the spine twist that we did on the mat with our legs, but the same goal. So we want to keep the pelvis stable. Inner thighs are definitely going to help. If you notice you're shifting away from your rotation, which is pretty common here, we'll kind of do a little offset. We'll lean away from the direction we're rotating. Think of actually weighting the hip that you're rotating to just a little bit more, and you might be surprised that you actually eke out a little bit more rotation, which is kind of cool. Try 1 more each way. And then you can lengthen your legs out. Walk your legs a little bit wider. Flip that fitness circle. So I've got 1 pad up, 1 pad down. I'm just going to take a nice little forward fold. So I'm sitting up as tall as I can. Legs can always be bent if you need a little bit more to sit upright. And I'm just going to round my spine using my abdominals to bend that fitness ring and then pressing to lengthen back up. So I'm using my spine and my abs in order to press the ring, and then I'm re-firing through my spine and my abs. I can use my arms to assist to lengthen back up. So as I'm folded forward, I should get a nice little stretch through my upper back, finding some core work here. You get 2 more spine stretches forward. Abs should feel like a zipper all the way up to the sternum. Last one. Lovely. Little teaser challenge. We'll come back into that teaser position. So for this one, I'm going to roll all the way back. Now, if you are still working on teaser, you can always ditch your ring in this moment. Find your hands behind your thighs, roll it back, and then draw the legs up one at a time. If you're feeling pretty good in your teaser position, take that ring. We're just going to take the same arm movement with the legs in a slightly more challenging position. So I'm going to exhale to reach the arms overhead, and then inhale to bring the arms back down. Probably a smaller range of motion for this one. We're still trying to fight the urge to either arch through the low back, pop the ribs, or use the head or neck kind of as a counterbalance. And we'll exhale for 2 more. And last one. Lovely. And you can come all the way onto your side. We'll bring our bottom leg into the inside of the ring and our top foot on top of the ring. I'm flexing my legs. I've got my nice stack. Bottom obliques are on, whatever is most comfortable for the head here. My arm can be on the ground to support, just watch for gripping, or maybe my arm's on my hip just to give me a little assistance. Flex that top leg and your bottom leg. So I still want this quad engaged. I'm gonna exhale a little squeeze and release. So I'm trying to find my outer hip, right glute, hamstring, and some inner thigh as I squeeze down on that ring. And then if I notice that my bottom rib's kind of digging into the ground, I'm gonna see if I can find my bottom obliques to counter the work of this hip. And just taking little squeezes here, finding length. If there's any kind of rocking or twisting of the torso, we're seeing if we can use our core to support. You get 2 more like this. And then float that top leg up. We're gonna rotate, turn the leg in and tap it forward. Rotate the leg out and then tap it back. So little rainbows, internal rotation to the front and external rotation to the back. And we'll go for 4. Finding length. So the challenge of this one is not to let the torso shift or the pelvis alter. Last 2. And last 1. Take that leg, you're gonna sneak it through the ring and then activate. This time we're gonna do a little float. So both legs float up and down. And we'll take about 6 more like this. Seeing it's not a super big motion for staying parallel and keeping that bottom side lifted. Keeping the neck easy. So sometimes when we have neck tension, it means maybe something else should be on and supporting. It could also just mean that you need to think about a different way to support the head. So maybe you need more padding, maybe you need to change the position of the arm. And on that last one, you can take that bum out. We're just gonna flip to the other side. I'm gonna do a full twist around here so that you can still see. And that's totally fine. So we're gonna activate through the bottom leg, bottom abdominals, and we'll start with a press. So I've got outer hip on, glute hamstring, some inner thigh. We wanna be protecting the knee. So part of having that flexed foot is so that we can get the quadricep on to protect the patella. Hand on hip, hands in front, kind of whatever feels the best as long as you're not overworking the top shoulder for these. Bottom leg's definitely on too, right? Our pelvis is connected, so you'll find you brace less if that bottom leg is active. On this next one, we're gonna float the leg up and we'll take those rainbows. So I'm gonna turn my leg in, rotate over the ring, and turn my leg out. Ring's kind of nice because you've got a goal here to reach that leg up and over. If you notice that you can't quite touch the leg down, whether it's in front or in back, then just indicates that maybe I don't have quite enough external rotation on one side to touch all the way down without losing my torso position. That's okay. Thighs just rotating here in the hip socket. You get 2 more. And last one. And then snake that leg through, flexing the feet, cores on, little refresh of the position, and then we're gonna float up and lower back down. Easy breath here. So noticing again, if there's tension in the jaw, in the neck, where maybe do we need to cue into just a little bit more? So maybe abdominals need to work a bit more. Keeping the hips and the ribs and the shoulders all facing the same direction. You get 3 more here. Last 2, definitely trickier on this side. Nice work, okay. We'll come out of that ring here. We're gonna come all the way onto our front. We're gonna take the ring and we're gonna place it in front of us here. So before we do the full exercise, we're gonna start with just a little extension to get us in the groove. For this extension, we'll bring the hands by the sides of the ribs. Don't feel like you have to get squished in by the mat, but just kind of generally this height of your body. I'm pressing the tops of the toes down, so just activated my glutes in that side glute series. My core is on. I'm gonna draw my shoulder blades towards my spine, lift ribs, chest, and head, and then lengthen back down. So it's a nice undulation starting from the shoulder blades. And you'll notice that for more extension, you do want retraction through your shoulder blades. If I'm rounded forward, you can even kind of test it. I don't get very much space. So shoulder blades and then undulating the chest forward. I love an inhale for this and an exhale to lower. Keep it pretty quick. You don't have to hang out here for a really long time. Try one more like this. And then maybe bringing the hands under the forehead, bending the legs and just taking a little shift from side to side. So for better extension, we want strong glutes and hamstrings, and that can be a really helpful tool. So thinking of activating your bum when you're doing extension along with your abs can be really helpful. So now I've got my ring for a little swan dive. So we're gonna find that ring in front of us here. Palms come stacked on top of your pad, and you might need to take a test one and figure out how far you need that ring from you. We'll start with the head forward hovering, pressing down through the tops of the feet. You got glutes, hamstrings, core. We're gonna press, drawing the shoulder blades together and then extending the chest up. My bum's definitely on here, gazing forward towards my hands, and then I'm gonna lengthen and lower back down. And then if you need to make any micro adjustments, you can always adjust that ring. So core and glutes, I've got my support team. I'm pressing down, I'm finding that retraction through my blades as I come forward. Lots of work through my upper back. Lats are definitely on. And exhaling and inhaling to lift. That inhale will kind of get you this nice buoyant feeling. You might find that you get a little bit higher, just watching that neck position at the top. Exhaling and inhaling to extend. You get one more like this, last one. And then on this last one, you can gently set that ring down. Bring your hands towards your sides here. Use your abs, press back, and take a child's pose. We'll take 3, keep it pretty active. So I'm really trying to push away as I hollow out my belly and try to sink my tailbones towards my heels. And then using those abs, just walk those hands back. We'll come up to kneeling. So if you need to grab a kneeling pad, here's your moment. We're gonna start with a little tricep. So I'm gonna take that ring, I'm gonna pop it behind. And then again, athletic grip sometimes is a little more challenging in this position. So if you wanna keep fingers long and hook your thumbs, that can be a little bit easier to get more extension through the shoulder blades. So I'm in retraction, my core is on, my glutes are on. I'm just gonna exhale and sweep the arms back and then return the ring back down. So what we're looking for is just range of motion here. Shoulder blades are retracting, my arm bones are spiraling gently. So I'm a little turned in. I'm gonna see if I can rotate my arm bones out. And then core is resisting, ribs popping at the very top. If this is a little too narrow, you could always grab a strap or a band and widen this a bit. On the next one, we're gonna keep ourselves out. So as long as everything else in the chain is looking good, take about 10 little mini squeezes. You probably won't be able to move the ring, and that's okay. This is really, really tricky. Hopefully you're feeling some burn there through the triceps. Halfway here, check in with the core and the breath for 3, 2, 1, and then shake out those arms. So we'll stay kneeling just for 2 more little quick pieces. Little spine twist. I'm gonna bring that pad just to my floating ribs. And then I'm gonna let my elbows, if they wanna lift, I'm gonna let them rest. My core is on. I'm gonna exhale to twist to the right, come back through center, and exhale to twist to the left. So for this twist, since we're kneeling, we're gonna try to initiate with the sternum and twist as much as possible. We'll have a little follow through at the hips. That's okay, we're not gonna be too upset about a little rotation there, but see if you can lead from the top and let your head come with you. And you might notice, if you wanna look over your shoulder for the last couple here, that just by adding your eyes, you get a little bit more rotation through your cervical spine and your thoracic spine. Last one here. And then we're gonna come into a mermaid stretch. If you wanna break from being on your knees, you could always do this seated or with your mermaid legs. I'm gonna bring my ring out to my right. I'm gonna bring my left hand behind my head, and I'm gonna take a lovely little side stretch up and over, and I've got that ring to support. And you should feel this stretch kind of all the way through the thigh, outside of the hip, and up into the armpit, and then I'll come back up. And we'll just try that a couple more times. Now, if you want, you can play with your gaze, so maybe looking up towards the elbow, or maybe looking down towards the ring. And notice how that changes your stretch when you change your focus. And exploring is a great way to learn. We'll take one more on this side. So we can have goals and we can have really specific instructions for certain movements, but remember that intention changes the movement a lot. So we can do the same exercise in a lot of different ways. So it's fun to play with. Here we go, we'll go to our opposite side here, trying to keep the hips steady. So I've still got my glutes on and coming back up. So you can always play with the movement. Notice how it changes. Maybe there's a benefit for you. And that's all good information to put into your toolkit to build a little bit more kind of self-knowledge, proprioception and interoception about your body. We'll try one more like this. Lovely. Last thing, we'll come to hands and knees here. Take 3 rounds of cat-cow. You can ditch your ring for the moment. Easy breath in. We're gonna press away and round the spine, scooping the abs. Now see if you can initiate with the core to reach the sits bones away as you push out of the arms and extend the chest forward. We just wanna make sure the core is on in both directions here. So I've got that support, organs lifting towards my spine, especially when I'm in my extended position. One more round, really pushing out of the arms. You should feel really grounded through the finger pads. And then for this last little piece, we're gonna take a couple supported push-ups. So you can bring your ring and we'll have the pad down and the pad's gonna come to our chest here. And then I'll have my hands out to the side and I can walk my legs back. So I'm gonna do a kneeling push-up. You can go full if you want. And you can have the legs down or up. Just make sure you're not on your patellas. We're gonna take a nice breath in. As you exhale, lower down into the ring. Inhale to push back up. And exhale to lower. Keeping that gaze just in front of the ring. Feeling the same shoulder blade mobilization that you felt, so that retraction as you take your push up. And then pushing from the hands all the way up. You get 3 more here. Keeping the core engaged. Last 2. And last 1. And then coming back off of those arms, you can let that fitness ring just drop off to the side. Take a lovely child's pose here with a little bit more relaxation as your intent. We'll take a quick side bend to the right. Sweeping those arms out, you can let that opposite hip fall to the left for a little bit bigger stretch through that whole left side body. If the head doesn't come to the ground, you can always support it with your hand under your forehead or maybe even making a small fist. And then we'll sweep the arms to the opposite side, pushing the hips to the right for a really big stretch through that whole right side body. And then come to center for one last breath here. And then gently, with the core, start to support with your hands coming all the way up. And I'll leave you there for today. Thanks for joining with our fitness circle. Hopefully that gives you some fun ideas that you can play with on your own. See you later.